Pluto is a streaming live TV and VOD service, which is for free and will always be for free. Our slogan is stream now, pay never.
Pluto is actually trying to compete with live TV and not the regular modern streaming services that we have.
We are not in direct competition with the other streaming services because we don't do originals and we don't have paid subscriptions. We are actually wanting to always offer something for free. And in that, we can go for some other niche content that might have a very specific audience segment. But if you multiply that by 10, then you already have a really big percentage of an audience that can find something interesting for free on Pluto.
Hey everybody, thank you for listening. My name is Andres Figueira and I'm going to be your host for the day. This show is brought to you by the Global Talent Company, helping fast-growing teams hire exceptional remote talent from Argentina, South Africa, and beyond. We connect companies with world-class professionals who bring skill, reliability, and a global perspective to every role. And just for our listeners, we're offering an exclusive 10% discount on your first hire. All you need to do is visit theglobaltalent.co, click Start Hiring, and mention the podcast listener discount when we reach out. And today with me here is Isabella Sobieski, Director of Brand and Marketing at Pluto TV, which is the leading free streaming television service delivering hundreds of live linear channels and thousands of titles on demand to a global audience. And with that said, Isabella, it's a pleasure to have you on the show. How are you doing?
I am good. Thank you so much. It's a pleasure to be here and excited to be here.
No problem at all. And Isa, just so that we can get the audience a bit more in context, would you be able to tell us a bit about your background and maybe in your own words, what Pluto TV really is?
Yes, so I'm Isabella. I am located in Berlin and right now leading the Pluto brand and marketing business for the German-speaking countries and the UK. So that is my focus areas. And I been living here for some time. I have a background in advertising, actually. That's where I started. And then I kind of slowly built myself up to the client side. So I became the client and then I hired the agencies because I had a little bit more creative control in that sense.
Okay.
And then I got into marketing. And since I moved to Berlin, I've been working for Nickelodeon previously. I worked for Spotify. I've been a freelancer. I've done a lot of startup work, consulting, and everything around brand and marketing. I think that the brand part became more kind of like prominent the past years because I think it was a shift within marketing. So it became a little bit more brand focused within the marketing sector. It was about like, positioning the brands, making brands more prominent, building the brand awareness and stuff like that. So I kind of took that on. And yeah, now that is a very big part of what I do. And Pluto is it's a streaming live TV and VOD service, which is for free and will always be for free. So
Okay.
our slogan is stream now, pay never. We exist in 36 countries. Among that is the US as a leading country, Latin America, Europe, uh, yeah, and many countries within that. Within those continents. So it's super exciting. It's basically a product that is ad sponsored. So, you can watch the content and we specialize on like library content. So like content that is not entirely new, it's not original and it is exclusive, but it's more like a selection. So it mirrors the TV experience, but in a streaming environment. So it's an application that you can have on any kind of CTV, so smart TV, and also your phone or your tablet anywhere, and it's all for free. So that's what I do, or that's what Pluto is.
I must say that I have used Pluto before, and I was very excited for this interview because I think the idea behind Pluto is kind of genius. Because, correct me if I'm wrong, but I feel that there's a big aspect of nostalgia in the way that Pluto works and how people use it. Because it just reminds me of when I used to like not be able to control what I watched, but just have to change channels and find whatever I liked in the moment. And I think that aspect is something that was lost because if I tell you about how many hours I have spent deciding what to watch on Netflix or any other streaming service that you need to just go through the catalog, Pluto is something that I watch when I don't want to think about what I need to watch, if that makes any sense.
Yeah. No, no, that makes a lot of sense, and I think that the nostalgia aspect is part what we at Pluto, or like maybe call the library content. So it is content that has been available on TV, but is now kind of like customized to also you watch, like the behavior has shifted, right? So the product, like the company actually started in 2014 in the US,
Okay.
and it was mainly to serve like the cord cutters. So cable became really expensive. And that's what when Pluto TV came in. And then it was acquired by then Viacom, now Paramount, in 2019 as their kind of like free to air model. So it was a good transition from like, the linear TV landscape kind of like, fading out because the online presence, like the internet became stronger and the smart TVs took over. And that's why the behavior for the consumers also shifted. So Pluto has the same kind of like lean back experience. You put it on, you zap through the channels, and it's all for free. And that's also why they decided that it will always be for free, because they wanted to have that strong competing factor against the traditional TV that, like in US example, was very costly because the cable networks, they needed the money to survive, I guess,
Okay.
or just to expand. And in Europe, it's a little bit different because the public TV is for free. It's incorporated into the taxes. So of course, here the competition is much stronger. So you have to kind of fight for a different type of positioning, because in the UK you have such companies as BBC that is very well positioned, and with taxpayers' money, they have always funds to do really great things. And the same, like similar in Germany and similar to the other countries in Europe. So it's a bit of a different setup, which makes it, of course, like very interesting and also very challenging in so many aspects, because the consumer behavior is also so much different. So you have to onboard the consumer to something that, hey, watch the free live TV in a streaming environment, whereas they're already watching traditional live TV in another free environment. So but I think that at the end of the day, it's about, the conveniency. Pluto is very innovative. It's like the technology is amazing. It's a seamless experience. It's like you put it on, you can find everything. It's very intuitive. It looks great. And of course, as a technology product, it really delivers.
Okay, and like from what I'm taking out of what you just mentioned is then that Pluto's it's actually trying to compete with live TV and not the regular modern streaming services that we have. It is live TV in a modern aspect of streaming, but then you did this, or Pluto began, just to make it easier and cheaper to watch television as we used to know it.
Yeah. And then
Okay.
also making sure that you could get other types of offerings or other types of content actually on Pluto that might not be on the SVOD services, right? So the
Okay.
subscription based services that you pay for, such as Netflix or HBO. And we always kind of said that we are not in direct competition with the other streaming services because we don't do originals and we don't have paid subscriptions. We are actually wanting to always offer something for free. And in that, we can go for, like some other niche content that might have a very specific audience segment. But if you multiply that by 10, then you already have a really big percentage of an audience that can find something interesting for free on Pluto. So it's about catering to different needs of the consumers and then making sure that we would fit in the behavior. So if you mentioned earlier that I really go to Pluto because I just want to like shut off my brain and I just want to like, disconnect and just watch, just, have something on in the background to probably keep you company, like some background noise, then that is also fine because for us that counts as, usage, right? And then that is a behavior that we are then looking for from the consumer, that like their behavior is that you decide that you want to go to Pluto, and then if something gets your attention, then that's even better, right?
Exactly.
So it's about like where does Pluto right now fit, because there's so many streaming services, and there's this like choice fatigue. So you go to all of them, and as a consumer, you end up being overwhelmed, and you might actually end up either choosing only a couple, or you choose the content that you already watched several times. And Pluto is there to kind of offer a similar experience, but without you paying for it.
And then, in another question I have is then, in terms of Pluto when it came out versus to nowadays, how has the marketing for the brand changed from the beginning to this moment? Because I believe that when Pluto came out, it must have been like, hey, this is cheaper, this is free, this isn't live television that you need to pay for, you can just have it. Is that the same angle that you're still using for Pluto TV?
I mean, I think that right now the free aspect is, of course, something that we will always use because I think that I think what has shifted, it's I think that there are two things. There's one thing that has shifted within, like, the overall kind of entertainment segment for consumers, that you as a consumer, you have more choices, and you are sometimes conscious about if you're paying or not. And like in a couple of years we've seen like the streaming services, like the subscription based services, also introducing the ad based models in order to lower the prices and to introduce ads, right? And Pluto has always have ads, and that has not been a problem for the consumer, because when a product is for free, then that's it. So there's that thing that has shifted, and people are now really consciously selecting what they are paying for. And probably, we are end up then with either people going to TV still as a one of the sources, or going to other free products, or going to YouTube. And YouTube has become, like, of course, like a go-to platform for free content that is like catered to the person who's actually using YouTube. So I think, it's all about, I think that the changes has not only been within the companies themselves, but within the content, like within the behaviors of the consumers, like how are we watching, how are we consuming content. And all of a sudden, all these companies, they have so much content, but very difficult to understand where to put it. And then you have a platform like YouTube, where a lot of content is and everybody finds it, and then it just accumulates, and becomes one of the biggest streaming services that is used in the world.
Of course.
So, and nobody can really compete with that, because it's a behavioral thing. So it's like, people go to Google, or how people probably will end up using AI. So the question is, how do you, like, I think for us it's more, how do we as a company understand our, like, what is the demand for people using us, as a service? Is it to shut off their brain, to have some kind of, like, lean back experience? Or do we find these opportunities where we take a genre or like a niche thing, and we build it up, so we cater to communities, and we kind of like build to these communities? Because the beauty of our product, same as YouTube probably, is that it's for free. So we can go and we can say like, hey, we want to try to, we did it recently now in Europe, like we want to try to grow darts as a sport. And darts as a sport in Europe has been trending for the past years. And we went and we said like, okay, so it's a niche sport, and it was available on a couple of platforms, but not so many. And throughout these past 2-3 years, we really like positioned it to be the number one watch channel in Pluto, because we catered to the community and we offered them something for free. And since we built up the consistency, we really told the story that like, hey, but watch this for free on Pluto. So we took the content that we had. We were very lucky with darts because they have a lot of competitions like every weekend. So, we could say like, watch this competition live now on the weekend. And we could go to these darts players that were, semi creators, influencers, and we could ask them, hey, could you just tell your community that you can watch this on Pluto for free? And they were, of course, really happy to do it because it's for free. So why wouldn't like they tell their community that like, hey, you can also watch me play darts for free on Pluto? And I think that these types of models right now as a form of marketing works really well. So you only have to kind of find the narrative that drives the message, and then goes out to the community and gives them the incentive to understand and recognize your platform. And then, since we built up this consistency because we had this channel, we could really position ourselves as like, the home of darts, with quotation marks, a home of darts. There's also other outlets, but it's a very interesting story. And I think Pluto, the free services right now at YouTube as well, they're very niched, and people, there's so many people who have the accessibility to find what they want to watch. So it's like the curation and everything is what we can benefit from. So we can go and say like, okay, but we can find, maybe we don't go for the super mainstream, but maybe we go for the mainstream that has a specific interest, and we
Okay.
build on that interest, right? So and I think that for us in competitive times where, like, you have to have high, like very high marketing budgets in order to create some noise, and sometimes traditional marketing, it doesn't really work. So you have to kind of figure out like, okay, what do I want the consumers to get out of my product that I might not like, that they might not find somewhere else? Or what do we do better than some other product, and if we are better in creating and catering and curating to a niche segment, then this niche segment becomes quite big and prominent, and we can duplicate that into other segments, right? And all of a sudden they can then like understand that, like, okay, Pluto actually gets it, they have this because, yeah, it's for free.
No, no, I
Something like
love
that.
I love it because it sounds totally logical, and I do understand that what Pluto, the biggest offer Pluto has is the fact that it's free. And since you're a platform that isn't just being controlled or concentrated in creating original content or the next biggest thing, you can hop on these minor trends that really do have a lot of people following them, and it can even hype them up a bit more and get more people on Pluto. But it is easier for an influencer to tell their audience like, hey, go watch me for free in this channel, rather than, oh, you need to pay a small fee just of this subscription so that you can watch me play in ESPN or something like that. And I do understand it's a bit of a friction point in the conversion of having people go to the platform. So I understand that Pluto makes it easy, because that's how I felt when I downloaded the app. It was like, is this all? And I was already watching television. The other thing I like about Pluto, which is, because I'm gonna shill it as much as I can, it's the fact that the ads you guys have is, it feels like when you used to watch commercials on the TV. It's not like an ad before the show that feels a bit intense. It actually, when the show was supposed to cut for an ad, it does, and that's normal. It feels like a regular flow in the watching moment. But when I use Pluto, that's what I like. It's just such a nostalgic and a throwback to when in Venezuela, Direct TV was very popular a bunch of years ago. And it just reminds me of that. It reminds me of the little menu that you saw with all the channels and just going down and saying, "Oh, I remember this. I want to watch that." And it's just it's different bursts of nostalgia that I feel with the whole application.
Yeah, and I mean, and that's exactly what it is, right? Even though, like, I mean, we of course say that it's like, very new technology, and we have won a lot of Emmy awards for, like, whatever, Grammy, Emmy awards for technology and product development and stuff like that. So I mean, it is still new and refreshing and very, like, modern. Uh,
No, I
I
don't.
have
My intention is not to make it feel like Pluto is old, but it does create
no,
that
no.
sentiment. So it
I
does.
I
I do
think that it's
understand.
because yeah, and I think that what you are feeling is actually the ease and the recognition. And I think that right now, as consumers, if you tap into like the more psychological behavior, the recognition and like the triggers emotions, and the emotions then makes you feel kind of like, calm and soothed, because it's something that your subconsciousness recognizes, and you feel more kind of prone to that, right? And I think, anything that is also related to, like, within consumer facing products or services, these things are also very important, because we are always triggered by our subconsciousness, like, I mean, there's things that are stored in our subconsciousness that we cannot control. So I think that and I think that this is why, if you work in marketing and if you work in branding, like, building on consistency and building on repetition is not always bad. You don't have to reinvent everything in
Hmm.
order to make sure that that whatever it is that your marketing is actually going to work. You just have to make sure that it is consistent,
Of
so
course.
that the person who's perceiving it actually can, like, something gets triggered, you know, and if the repetition is triggered, then something else happens. And if the, yeah, like there's so many of those psychological things that we tend to forget about. And I think when you are working for like a, with a company like Pluto, for example, you know, in an environment that is very highly competitive, where you compete for the consumer's attention, you compete for the behavior, you compete for the position, then you really tend to remind yourself that, like, okay, you know, how would I want to experience this as a consumer? Like, how would I want this to be presented to me? Like, I wouldn't care if I saw an advertising about this on the bus station, or like, you know, somewhere online in a banner. I would care if it would be more a storytelling or part of my whatever I see every day, right? And I think that that's the difference. And I think that that is like, it's a challenge, but it's a lot of fun.
No, and I imagine, and I believe Pluto is actually doing really well because honestly, in between all the different streaming services that I understand that exist, like Pluto is still there. And I believe you mentioned that Pluto is going on since 2014. Was that when the company
Yeah,
was
in the
founded?
US. Yeah. And then
Oh my
when
goodness.
they were acquired in 2019, then that's when the expansion in Europe happened. So like then that's when the expansion to like Latin America, to Europe, because that's when we also utilized the content from Paramount to open up like a wider kind of, you know, offering.
That's why there
Because
are so many Nickelodeon shows
yes,
on
yes,
Pluto, right? Okay,
yes.
now it's all making sense because I was like, I
Yeah.
watched Nickelodeon when I was younger, and it's like I found all the shows I used to watch there, and it's like,
Yeah.
how did these guys get it? Okay, I understand
Yeah.
now. That's
Yeah, so
beautiful.
that's, and that was, you know, and that was a smart move from Paramount, going more into like the modern kind of like, you know, free TV. Then they still had their linear channels, which of course like are still also existing and stronger, but because of the TV environment changing, they were like, okay, why not? We can, you know, Pluto is a great streaming opportunity to leverage, like, you know, we can cross promote everything, we can work within like an ecosystem. And in the US, they've done a great job with this. You know, they do a lot of promotions for whatever it is on P Plus, and vice versa. So it just it really works. You know, because people who,
I was not aware of that. Well, the fact that Paramount practically owns Pluto, but it's the fact that there's this alliance in between both brands that is so cool. And Isa, do you have a statistic of which continent or which country watches Pluto TV the most? This is out of my curiosity because I feel Latin America must be pretty representative there.
yeah, I think that there's, I think actually, yeah, I definitely like that. US, of course, like in Latin America, and you know, very high up. But I would say that there's different kind of like statistics for different countries. So we have, you know, it's hard to compare such like continents like US and Latin America to Europe, which is like significantly smaller. But even in Europe, we have a really high watch time, you know. So we do have a very high time spent. Same in all the things. We have a very good and loyal base. You know, we have we don't have any like significant declines and stuff like that. So the product is really like stable and growing very well, which is even more exciting because I think in the US, and I think in Latin America and even in south of Europe, the behavior is a little bit different. It also comes with culture. So something that is for free and something that is like, you know, accessible is, people jump on it. They're like, okay, I'm in. In Europe, people are a little bit more like, what do you mean for free? There must be a catch.
What's
There
the
must be
catch?
something here. What's the catch? And literally, like when we sometimes, like there was some kind of incident in the Nordic when we launched, like in the Nordic countries like Sweden, Denmark, Norway, when we launched, and they were like, this is you know, they thought that it was like a scam. And we were like, it's not a scam. It's like, it's true, because people, they were like, oh, I don't want to click this because what if it's not for real? And it's like, if you're introducing a brand, of course, like some, it's just like a cultural behavior, then
Of
people are
course.
more cautious. And in some cultures, they don't care. They're like, it's for free, count me in. Yeah. Um, even if my computer gets a virus, I don't care. Like I'm in, I'm interested. And I think that that's a very interesting, it's a very interesting when you work in an international environment that you learn so much about each territory and you understand like, okay, there's different success factors
Of
in
course.
different things, like so and I'm not gonna talk about this like so long and in detail, but there's a lot of factors that go into like every model of Pluto in every country, right? So the content models, the technology models, the accessibility models, the licensing, the rights. It's a whole ecosystem around the content.
I was going to ask about that because like when you mentioned that darts is number one in Pluto in Europe, that darts then the sport is in it's rising and the people are trending and watching it, then is that available for me, for example, here in Argentina? Can I watch it, or will that not be like the number one genre or priority in Pluto when I put the app on here in my TV?
No, so Pluto is completely local. So it's like geo-targeted. So you cannot watch it in any other territory where it's not. So you have if it's in Argentina, then it's Argentina or Brazil or US and such, if you don't use a VPN, of course. But yeah, I mean, so theoretically you could watch it if you use a VPN, but I mean, it is catered to be as local as possible. Also because of the mirroring of like the TV experience and stuff like that. So it's not the same. It's completely different. And also that's why the content models are different. The content is different. It's just different, but it's very interesting.
No, no, no. Like honestly, after this interview, I'm just gonna pop Pluto TV on, and I'm just gonna have it
Yeah.
on for the rest of the day and see what I find because it's been a while since I used it, but now I want to use it again. And Isa,
Yeah, I hope you find something.
I'm sure I will. I'm
Yeah,
100% certain I will. Isa, and now I
definitely.
want to shift the perspective because we've talked about where Pluto works, who uses it, what it is, but I want to also talk about the company and how big is Pluto TV because I feel you guys have a really big operation going on for such a long time now because 12 years is a bunch. How big is your marketing team and how big is the company as a whole?
I mean, so Pluto as a part of Paramount, it's quite significant. It's quite big. I think in we have different local teams in each territory. I think in Europe in general, we have smaller marketing teams. We work a lot with agencies. So, we work with PR agencies, with ad agencies, with social media agencies, but like the core teams are quite small. So, it might be just me and another colleague doing like all the German speaking countries and the UK. But then we have, of course, all the other departments and stakeholders from content to programming to, and in the US, we have the whole tech team that are working on the back end, the technology of the product and stuff like that. So I mean, it's a huge operation. It's a huge operation. But it is and it's very international. So I wouldn't be able to say exactly how many people work, but a lot, a lot of people.
I can imagine, and that's why I wanted to ask because like it's so many different countries, and when you mention specifically that the content is locally tailored, then I believe there must be people from each region that are making sure that it's feeling local because if not, it would
Yeah,
just
yeah,
be
for
like
sure.
a general branding. Okay, okay.
No, no, for sure, for sure. It has a lot of people who are like, focusing on certain areas and certain territories. I
Mhm.
think what Paramount does really well is that they know how to hire really good people that are very, great and efficient, and then they work really well. Even though that we're might be a few, but it still works really well. So and we have colleagues all over the world, and we share like stories and learnings and stuff with each other, and we try to always wherever. But the interesting part is also that now more and more we can also do these kind of global deals. So for example, we can work with a partner that has the content, and then we can say like, okay, this is relevant for a global release, and then we launch it like in all of the countries. Like so we can also do that because the technology like is the same. So once you upload a content to something, then and you have the rights to do it in all of the territories, then you can just do it. And which is like more and more interesting for a lot of partners who are international as well, and they like, okay, so we want to, like for example, we work with NBC, and they're like, oh, we want to show like a range of Top Chef or Real Housewives or whatever, and we want to do it in all the European countries and in the US. And then that's for us, it's really easy and seamless to do so. And then we can share, they can just share everything with us and we share everything with them. So it is very easy. Like we do the same with like CNN, which has like a fast channel on Pluto globally, and then they have it in English, and whoever wants to watch it can access it. So yeah, so that's also
Oh,
possible.
I love that. Okay, I did not know that either. I'm learning a bunch of stuff about Pluto
Yeah,
today. That is
yeah,
so
yeah.
cool.
Yeah, man, those are the things that you, of course, don't really think about when you watch it because you don't know exactly how it operates in other territories. But yeah, I mean, being an international product always has its benefits sometimes when like the back end is the same and everything works the same, and then you can just mirror it to enable it for other territories as well.
Of course, no, because I understand now that you guys have the tech to make it work everywhere. You just need like the legal rights and the permissions to be able to post it and have it
Yes.
running in the different territories that you work in.
Yeah,
Okay, okay, that
exactly.
is amazing.
Exactly.
And Isa, I'm noticing that we're almost at time. These 30 minutes flew by, honestly. I did
Yeah,
not know
definitely.
that
So
they
much,
went so
so much
fast.
talk about Pluto. Yeah. Yeah. Feel
But
like I
Isa,
should have brought like a tech colleague to this call to this call.
but if before we close out the episode, I did want to give you the chance and the moment to tell anybody in the audience who's listening to us how they can gain access to Pluto, how they can download it, how they can watch something. How would they go about doing so if they wanted to?
Well, I mean, I think that the best experience is to download it if you have a TV, to download it on your smart TV. But if you only want to use it on your phone, that's fine. You know, like if you're a millennial and you don't have a TV at home, then you might want to watch it on your phone. No, but you just search for Pluto TV in the App Store. And if it's available in your territory, you download it all for free. Then you set it up all for free. You don't have to register. You can register, and then you get our lovely newsletters filled with tailored information about upcoming news and content and stuff, which is always fun, but it's not forced. And then you just kind of like zip through the whatever channels. So it's very easy. It's like a category interface with channels. The channels work exactly like TV, so they showcase like what's on right now and then what's coming, and then you can see what's on in the next couple of hours, like in a schedule. And then we have a VOD collection, and there, of course, everything is like on demand. So
Okay,
yeah, so
perfect.
that's pretty much it. It's very
Amazing.
easy.
Okay, so anybody in the audience who does want to download Pluto, you heard it here first. It's very simple. Just go to the App Store and Google Play Store as well, right?
Everywhere. Yeah, like all
Everywhere.
the
So
stores. Yeah, I don't know.
just search
And
for
also
Pluto
on
TV.
the yeah, and on the like Fire TV, like on the CTV devices as well, right? So if you want to search like then we're also there. So the CTV is connected TV. That's what we in the business called smart TVs, because it's a connected TV. So that's why I keep saying CTV.
Nice. Okay. Okay. No,
Yeah.
I've learned so much new stuff that I'm gonna have to write it down. But
Yeah.
Isa, just wanted to also say thank you so much for hopping on the episode with us. It really has been super interesting, and I'm very excited to see everything that Pluto will keep on doing in the future. And I'll check out the Argentinian region selection to see what you guys have to offer here.
Thank you so much for having me. It was really nice to be able to talk a little bit about it. And yeah, just check it out. It's for free.
That is the most beautiful thing, and I believe anybody who's watching out of curiosity is going to download it because it's not going to cost you anything. So just go ahead and give it a try and let us
Never.
know what you think about it.
Exactly. There's no hidden. It will always be for free.
I know that's super cool. But once again, thank you so much, Isabella, for being on the show. And I hope that anybody who is here listening to us still, we really appreciate you being on and listening to the different industries we bring to the show and the different guests that we are showcasing as well. And with that said, goodbye.